Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Iowa and the Dames Marv Show. Idiots over Washington's antics, and the clock starts now. Speaking of and the clock starts now, I want to tell you about a new Lock 22 show we have starting tomorrow. We're going aggressive. We're looking at going Monday through Friday with a half-hour sports show, me and Ben Shrewsbury.
Yes.
And the first one's tomorrow. So
If you
uh
need guests.
prime time, 8 p.m. We'll record the show ahead of time, but it will be available at 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. What am I doing, guys? What am I doing? All right,
Death by 1,000 cuts.
we got half an hour on the clock today. Oh, I say goodbye to this beard the way it is because starting a new show tomorrow. I can't have this. Can't have this.
Sure you can.
You sure you
Um,
can.
okay, this dance we were doing at the beginning of the show. I have this. I can't imagine doing this for 40 seconds, let alone 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
So apparently, what happened at a Trump, God damn it, leave me alone. Apparently, at a Trump rally, oh, we got to go live on TikTok. See, we're all kinds of fucked up because of this.
In other words, it's normal.
Welcome, TikTok. We're live on you now as well. All right.
And you missed a whole bunch of really good stuff.
You missed nothing. You can watch it over again on the replay because I know everybody watches this show 100 times.
That's right.
All right. Apparently, at a Trump rally, somebody passed out from heat exhaustion, something or other, and they brought people in to get rid of them. And apparently, this took 40 minutes.
Well, two emergencies I heard.
Two emergencies. But the point of the story is Donald Trump wasn't talking. He didn't leave the stage. He stood there dancing to music.
Even after the people were gone, he didn't talk about anything. He just stayed up there and danced. And they played more
Well,
music.
I think I think that's because right about that time that Molly was really kicking in, man. You know,
Tell them about your theory,
my,
Uncle
my
Russ.
theory is that somebody on his campaign said we got to chill this guy out, we got to calm him down, and maybe they slipped him a little something.
Dude, I'm
He was feeling no pain.
yeah. I mean, he was he was on the Jeffrey stroking the furry wall. That's what he was doing.
I don't know. He's just an unusual fellow, you know.
Someone's
Well,
Jeffrey and he's stroking the furry wall.
when you got nothing but the same old stuff to talk about, I guess, let's play some music. Most people don't take these rallies seriously anyway. It's more of a party and a social event for the people that go there. There's nothing serious talked about. That's for
Yeah,
darn sure.
which we didn't
Well,
get
there
to
were
this.
some unkind memes with making fun of Kamala Harris's dancing. But now I think it's all even. I mean, everybody can dance. I wish they do more dancing than speaking sometimes. All God's children got to dance.
They make fun of her laugh. I've never even
I
seen
know.
a Donald Trump laugh
Um,
at anything for any
he's
reason.
not a funny guy. He has
Uh,
no sense of humor.
I'm sure that that's not true to some extent. I'm sure that if you're hanging out with him on the golf course, he can cut it up pretty good. But I mean, as a person, he doesn't show that
No,
outside of the,
Well,
and I
not as a
don't like
public
that. I don't know
persona.
that I like that.
no.
I want somebody that I can relate to. It wasn't until after George Bush's presidency that I was like, I'd have a beer with that guy. I'd look through his
Yep.
paintings, his painting books. Like he's like a 10-year-old kid. It didn't seem that way when he was in the White House.
Well, they never do. Most
So
of them are much more likable when they're out of office. I mean, that's something that Americans do is they love to hate their leaders, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Uh,
apologizing for the constant beeping. I'm gonna have to find a way to.
I can't. We can't hear it.
Okay, thank God, because I'm sure it's gonna come up on the recording but it's driving me insane with these mugs from NFL.
Not gonna bother me.
Anyway, so we didn't talk about the Coachella rally on the last show where people waited 7 hours to get into the rally. I mean, it was a big rally. I give them that. There was a shit ton of people there. But what had happened was buses were hired to bring people from the parking lot where their cars were, as far as 6, 7, 8 miles away. And they were bussed in to see him speak. That took I've seen some accounts of people that waited up to 7 hours just to get there. He spoke for 40 minutes to an hour and a half, whatever, and then left. And then the crowd was without buses to get back. I don't know if that's true. I can't find a fact check around that, but I've seen accounts of people that were actually there that are Trump supporters that were like, I walked 8 miles back to my car with no
Yeah.
help.
Wow.
I've seen news stories from actual legitimate news sources that talked about this being an issue.
Do they have an explanation as to why this
Well, the only thing that I heard was
made
that
the decision?
apparently the bus company said that they hadn't been paid. They weren't, and if they hadn't been paid, they weren't going to go do any more work. Now, I don't know if that's true or not either, but that's just one thing I read.
Yikes.
It would not be uncharacteristic of the Trump campaign to do that. But, I think it's emblematic of the fact that here we are. He's been in the political business for what, 9 years now, and by and large, most of the people working with him and working for him still don't know what the hell they're doing. It's a fly by the seat of your pants operation. It's not very, uh,
It's also a revolving door, Tom.
yes,
You don't stay with him for very long. I mean,
right. Nobody likes to work for him, and so yeah,
so
no
that brings me to
continuity.
my first real question of the day then. Um, he, if elected, he doesn't plan to go and find the best people available for these positions. He may pick people that are not even qualified for these positions based on their allegiances to him. Now,
Correct.
we've already heard and talked about what he said he would do to his political opponents if elected, oftentimes referring to using military force to go after these people, which is absurd. What happens if you become a Trump loyalist, are then invited to be part of his regime, and then you defect? What happens to you at that point? It's more than fired.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't want to make too strong a comparisons here, but um, most of the initial leaders of the French Revolution ended up losing their heads in the guillotine before it
Oh,
was all over. I can think of two prominent Iranians, guy by the name of Yatsik Gobada, I think was his name. He was the foreign minister of Iran that took over when the Ayatollah came in. They ended up, killing him with the death penalty. Bani Sadr, a guy who was the leader of the Iranian parliament who helped Khomeini come to power. He was assassinated or killed by a firing squad. So, I mean, typically when you have very disruptive political movements, they tend to eat their young. And so, I mean, he's already talking about going after people who work for him in his first term. So why would a recent defection be any different than a defection that occurred a year or two or three or four ago? So
what would be
that's
the
my thoughts.
motivation, Russ, to become part of a Trump administration a second time around? If you know that you disagree with him, that What
Yeah.
was the motivation?
I don't know. I think at this point in the game, the only people that are going to want to work for him, it's going to have to be your most ardent, true believers. I mean, the people that really believe in their heart that Trump is the right guy or that have other motives. And when I say other motives, I'm thinking of people like Steve Bannon, who knows exactly who Trump is, but who has his own political agenda, tied to he's one of these accelerationist nut jobs on the so-called alt-right. But I think you'd have to be in one of those two modes to work for the guy. Otherwise, you better be a loyal lapdog because, loyalty goes one way with him. And that's been very, very obvious, not just in, in his political life, but for years. A lot of people that used to work for him don't have nice things to say.
All right, fair. Um, Tom, this one comes to you. We're looking at right now, historically, the biggest gender gap in voting history ever in history, where majority women for Harris, or at least the disparity between women voting for Harris and Trump, and then men voting for Trump and not Harris. Can you wrap a bow around that topic?
Well,
For
I
the
don't know if I can
listener?
wrap a bow around it, but I mean, it certainly is striking. And I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with Roe v. Wade, but I also think that it's almost more fundamental than that. And it's because of gender differences in the way people look at the world. Um, Donald Trump appeals to a very specific type of man, um, one who tends to be more authoritarian in their outlook on things. People should have to do things. Kids should have to behave a certain way. Wives should have to behave a certain way. And I'm not saying that's true of all of the male supporters of Donald Trump. I think there are plenty of men who support Trump for other reasons. But when we're trying to analyze what's causing this big difference, I think you've got a certain segment of the male population that the strongman authoritarian type of approach is very appealing. And likewise, you have a certain segment of the female population who look at this guy and say, I've seen this fucker before, and I don't, I've learned to stay away from these kinds of guys. And it really gets down to a gender perception, a difference between the genders that plays into psychology way more than it does where they stand on the border or inflation or tariffs or any of that. Um, that's got to be what's going on. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I'll let Russ go first.
Well, I can't think of much to add to what you said. I think that is true. I think it's a sociological factor of even conservative women are on the conservative side of the fence tend to be not as radical in the pro-life movement, as far as the number of exceptions to the rule they would provide. For as an example, there are there are degrees of moderation even within that movement, but most men in the movement tend to be an all or nothing. No abortions, no exceptions, punish the woman, punish the doctor, you know, uh, and that scares a lot of women. And I think that he lost some Republican women over that, I'm sure. Hopefully enough to make a difference, but I have no way of knowing that.
Well, I'm gonna I'm gonna go even more radical than either one of you on this. And I'm just gonna I honestly I can't believe that a single woman would vote for him based on his policy, his treatment of women, I mean, the guy's a felon 34 times over for what? This wasn't even anything to do with like bad business. This
Right.
was like, I had a marital affair and with a porn star, and I wanted to cover it up. I used X and O funds out of this. I wrote these checks, had these people do this. These people are now serving time because they did shady shit for me.
Right.
And I mean, I remember back when when he said he was running for president and the footage came out where he said you could grab him by the pussy and they won't even care. They won't even care. And I was like, it's over. Not a single woman will ever vote for this person. Now I watch daily video after video saying, women, how could you be so stupid as to vote for Kamala Harris? Donald Trump has your best. I'm like, no, he
No.
wants to grab your pussy. That's what Donald Trump wants. And I'll tell you this, you guys, this is where I'm going radical with it. I feel like you just don't value yourself as a woman if you're going to vote for Donald Trump. You have something wrong here that says, I'm not good enough. And it's self confidence, whatever it is. I'm not a psychologist, but there is something wrong with you if you know all this and you turn your back on it and you cast your vote for Donald Trump. And men on the other side of this, you don't respect women. If you vote for Donald Trump, you do not give a shit about women. It's all about you maintaining your power and dominance over them. And you can all go fuck yourselves because you're pieces of shit.
You
How's
said,
that?
but more.
You're muted. You're muted.
Oops.
Oh shit.
Go ahead.
You said what I said, only in a much more frank way. You're absolutely correct.
Right. Well, he had a whole room full of people cheering him just recently when he declared himself to be the father of IVF. You know, these are, I think it's low self esteem, but I also think there's cognitive dissonance that has a lot to do with people's religious upbringing. An awful lot of these women, they know what's right, they know what feels right, but yet their whole life they've been conditioned to believe this version of men, God up here, men up here, and women way down here. That's it's a huge factor. I mean, it's not just superstition, but it can function as a form of mind control.
Yeah. When we were initially discussing this, and Tom was giving the characteristics of a man who would vote for Trump, I was like, so you're saying the three of us are pushovers, basically. But you
Not really,
you
though.
guys, well, I mean, you could make that argument.
Yeah.
But what I got out of it
Well, he
was
voted for her.
we don't need to be in control of women. We love the fact that women can make their own decision. We actually probably all three of us think women are the superior sex.
No, absolutely.
I mean, they're the ones that give life. I mean,
Well, and I don't feel threatened by a woman who is independent, can think her own thoughts, and can make up her own mind. And a big part of the appeal of Trump's campaign to a huge segment of the male population is they feel left out economically. They feel like they're not getting their due, they're not getting their respect and all that. But the truth of the matter is they don't respect themselves. Don't have confidence in themselves. They're not strong enough as men to admit that they need to get off their ass and change their lives. And it's nobody's fault but their own. They want some other guy that says, oh, it's okay to run roughshod over other human beings and blame them for your problems.
that's a huge part of this whole campaign is I hear people saying, I'm voting for Trump because my life sucks. and you think your life is going to get any better because you vote for Donald Trump, you are a jackass.
Yeah.
You guys, I got to tell you this. I've been making videos on YouTube for about 4 years now. And, with varying degrees of views, some videos have 10,000, some have 10 views. But all along this timeline, people have hit the like button, the little thumbs up. We did an episode of this show on Tuesday with Stephen J. Jackson. I'm not saying he has anything to do with this, but I absolutely love that for the first time in 4 years, I got a thumbs down on one of my videos.
How
And
about that?
instead of seeing 100% loves across the board,
Right.
I have one that says 85% of people like this, which means there's 50 or 15% of people that don't like it.
That means we touched some people out there,
You know what?
And it's the same way. It's the same way with anything. If you get a reaction, that's good.
Yeah.
If you get a
You're
bad
Trump fan and you're
reaction,
watching this video, fuck you.
you know,
Give me a thumbs down, you bitch.
but if somebody wants to tune in again and just to see what is that dumb fucker Uncle Russ going to say this week,
Well, that's
hey,
exactly what I thought. I was like, I don't know how to take this the first time I've seen this. And then I'm like, you know what? Thanks for watching, bitch.
85-15, that's better numbers than anybody that's ever run for anything got, so.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I mean, I kind of wanted to bring it a little bit more tonight. We are under the 10-minute mark at this point. So let me say this. I don't know how this information gets out to the general public in the last 3 weeks. It should be common knowledge, and it should be all that everybody's talking about. Because these are some statistics that we have here. Inflation, which is probably aside of the border, the biggest issue in this coming election, is the lowest that it has been in 3 years. Now remember, Biden didn't cause inflation, okay? It was a worldwide global pandemic that shut down pipelines, it shut down just
Sure,
everything. It shut down the world.
we're still in recovery.
And the
Or-
largest land war in Europe in over 70 years.
Yeah. So these things, and that wasn't our fault either.
Right.
These things take their toll. So for us to have a bounce back and recovery for the lowest, and it's under 3%. You guys think about other countries that are at 39% inflation. Like they can't even put prices on their goods because they change so frequently.
Right.
Okay, so you have that fact, the lowest in 3 years, okay? And then you have consumer spending, which is up 0.4%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's more than was expected
And that's in 1 month.
in 1 month.
Yeah.
September, that's the last month.
Yep.
Job growth is stronger than expected, and unemployment during Biden's term has been the lowest in history ever. Okay?
These
So-
are true facts.
These are true facts. These are things that you actually can fact check and find the information for yourself.
Verifiable.
I'm not going to tell you where to fact check them because if you don't believe my source, you're welcome to find your own source. They're all going to say the same thing. Okay? Those are the things that need to be circulating out in the public in these last 3 weeks while you sit here thinking about how terrible your life is with Kamala Harris. Now, I don't know that we need to comment on that. If you guys have a comment, go ahead. We're at 6 minutes. I got
Just that it's great,
It
the
is.
stock market's at all-time highs, interest rates are starting to come down. The point is you talk to any major economist and they will tell you that this economy is nowhere near recession point at all. And probably most importantly, the average wage growth has exceeded the rate of inflation for the last couple of years now. So people are actually gaining on things in the aggregate. I know there's individuals that aren't, but in the aggregate.
Well, take my temperature anytime we do this show, because I was feeling very heavily that Trump was I just had a feeling Tuesday when we did the show that it's already a done deal and whatever. But things change, and just like the tides, I'm like, she has a chance. And I think one of my big issues on the last show was her unwillingness to separate herself from Joe Biden. It's problematic whether you agree with her standing by her man or not. There has to be something done to let people know that if they feel like this 3-year low and spending up, job growth up, if this is bad,
Right.
she's looking at the actual facts and saying, yeah, this is what it is. I agree with all this stuff. But there's so much misinformation and lying on the other side that they're asking. And what I realized in this is they're asking her to separate herself from the lies that are being told about the Biden administration. And when she fails to do that, it just looks like, well, Biden's failed. Are you willing to follow the same path of failure? Well, look at this shit. Biden is not failing. He's not failing. There is really no reason to separate yourself from what Joe Biden is doing other than to placate the people that don't like Joe Biden. And I mean, this got past me, you guys. But Russ, you said before the show started that she must have absolutely watched this show.
Sure.
Because she did
Somebody on her campaign obviously watched us Tuesday night, and that's cause to rejoice, brothers. We're changing the world, one mind at a time. We're changing the world, and if I could just get everybody out there to join us together for this great gathering together, all come together in one mind. And I already voted for Sister Kamala, and
hallelujah, brother.
Out there and do it.
Hallelujah.
Preach.
Preach
Amen.
it, bro.
So I haven't seen the full interview, Tom. She went on Fox News and apparently she crushed it.
She had a really good interview on Fox News, and it's gotten a lot of attention because it was more of a debate than an interview between her and correspondent Brett Baer. Now, to be fair, Baer was getting massive amounts of shit from the Trumpsters before the interview even happened, that, oh, he's going to give her the questions ahead of time and he's not going to be hard on her and all of that. And I think some of that may have even been coming from within Fox News. To be fair, you got to remember, Brett Baer is also the guy who did a really tough interview with Donald Trump. Okay. Right. Now, do I think it was a fair interview? Yeah, not really. I mean, he come at her with a lot of stuff, but the key point is she came back with both barrels blazing, and she really emphatically answered the questions and put down the lies and the misinformation that was out there. It was a great performance on her part. I don't know that it's going to convince anybody, but it sure heck is going to rally the troops on her side, her supporters.
Russ, anything to contribute there?
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Anything to contribute there?
Not really. I didn't watch the debate. I just saw the highlights. Brett Baer, he's tolerable compared to everybody else that's on Fox. I mean, he's a freaking genius compared to like Jesse Waters or Brian Kilmeade. That's what we can talk an hour about that. Who's stupider, Jesse Waters or Brian Kilmeade? Which one is actually dumber?
The answer is Sean Hannity.
I thought you were going to say Steve Ducey.
Sean Hannity still. I would love to see, look, we're coming up on a minute and a half left. So I'm going to just start with my closing argument and then we'll go to you guys. It's not even an argument. This is just a closing statement. These interviews, it was all Trump could talk about for like the last month and a half. She's not doing interviews. Blah, 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 blah. She's been everywhere, including Fox News. And where are you? He's at home washing his tights. Listen, you guys,
That's right.
Donald Trump complains about Kamala Harris not doing interviews. She's going out there doing interviews. And yes, a lot of them got the better of her because she refused to separate herself from Biden. But when she went to the enemy and the enemy tried to throw this debate type of interview, I love that, Tom. I love that kind of, I want the hard questions. I don't want
Yep.
to see, I mean, it's entertaining to
I
watch
agree.
Howard Stern because he's just a great interviewer and it's more of a casual thing to show how cool she is. It's not really any kind of interview that you're going to learn anything from. So, I just had to on our TikTok live, I had to appeal our reason for being shut down. Hold on. My live does not contain the content you're telling me it does. That's probably because I said some bad words. Fuck you.
Oh, okay. I might have said some too.
It's fine. Okay, we're in the middle of our closing arguments now. Let me turn this timer
I
off.
thought profanity was okay, you know.
So, finishing up, where's Donald Trump now? He's not doing interviews. He refuses to debate again. No matter where it is, he refuses to debate again. He's not doing interviews outside of his rallies. And I just want to say, man, you are the epitome of a piece of shit. You call somebody out for not doing something, they do it, you don't acknowledge that they're doing it, and then you refuse then yourself to do it. You're a big, fat, orange, bloated pussy. Go grab yourself. Tom, you're next.
Well, to answer your question, where Donald Trump is he is on the side of the road, 8 miles from his car that ran out of gas in the middle of the night, on the road to nowhere without a flashlight. That's where he is right now. And it's going to continue to get worse. And we're in the silly season, and he's going to run off into the ditch and break his ankle here pretty soon. The other closing thought I have is Seattle Kraken, 9 p.m. Central. We take on the Bullies of Broad Street, the Philadelphia Flyers. Tune in, everybody. Should be a good game.
Won the last one, 7-4, I think. Russ, closing statement from you, sir.
Closing statement, everybody vote. I would encourage everybody to vote early if possible. Don't wait till election day, just on the outside chance that there might be some crazy people hanging around the polls on election day. Crazy people of all stripes, and I'm not going to say that the only nut jobs out there are right wing, because there are some left wing nut jobs out there too. And no, I'm talking about those real nut jobs. I'm talking about your anti-vaxxers and that kind of stuff. That's where the left wing loonies and the right wing loonies get together, and they all hang out and they have coffee with Roseanne Barr. But anyway, I'm glad people are watching the show, and I'm glad people are liking it and hating it either way. It's very enjoyable to get here to vent.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Trump supporters.
Thank you all.
Oh,
Oh, that's right.
Paul